2, 1.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the April 2023 meeting of the Templeton Community Preservation Committee. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members here in person, and we have George Andrews on the phone for a total of 7, which is great since we have 9 slots, but only 8 people that sit in them, so we're doing pretty well. The first item on the agenda is a discussion on the minutes from March 9th. Jessica sent these out shortly after the meeting, and it's given them to us again, so everybody can have a chance to look at them and refresh what's in there. And that will be our first item of business, would be to.
Thanks. Don't have any issues with it, but we'll make a motion to accept them.
Motion was made by Dennis to accept these minutes.
I would like to change my name, please, on new business.
Dennis, if you could just circle on your copy where I made the spelling error, and I will update that.
And then I'll second it.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
okay, but motion's been made and seconded to approve these minutes. Is there any other discussion? As usual, I think she's done a great job, and hearing no other discussion, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with George.
Yes.
Yes, Joanne?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Yes, for me, Mike?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Candace, yes. So these minutes are approved and will be duly posted. Okay, next on the agenda is our admin update.
So the first piece of paper I handed out to you all, that's highlighted in orange is your seat on the CPC. Seats expire at the end of the fiscal year for the year noted. So that would be June 30th. So I highlighted whether your seat expires this year or not. And then I highlighted if you're an appointed member or an elected member. Appointed members just have to be reappointed by their individual board before June 30th.
Before.
That would be applicable to you, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah. So elected members shall serve 3 years once they're elected. So for example, if everybody could go out and vote on May 15th, Mr. Henshaw is on the ballot to serve on the CPC again. And so that's why I recommend, since our May meeting is May 11th, but town election is May 15th, that we do a reorganization or reappointments to CPC on our June 8th meeting.
Yeah, I
So
think
it gets done by
so
June 30th.
technically, you know, we can wait until the July meeting to do the reorganization, because then we'll be in the fiscal year.
Okay.
And if a committee, for a reason of quorum or attendance, can't appoint a person in time, you know, we'll just have to catch up with it, as that person would then therefore not be able to vote or participate until they're officially nominated again by the board and sworn in by the clerk. So that's the process. Once you're sworn in by the town clerk or assistant town clerk, you're a full member. So, you know, these transitions happen, and it's a challenge, and we're fortunate to have such great volunteers. So thank you for putting this together. This is great.
You're welcome. My next update is based off of last CPC meeting. There was discussion on the community preservation plan and creating one. And so I simply created a blank template for you all. And what I did was under your topic, if you go through it, I highlighted where you would provide actual content. And Mr. Andrews, if you want to see me next week, I'll be able to provide you your packet.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll see you next week.
Very good. And I'll provide Carrie hers as well. But if you go through, you know, there's some highlighted areas where, you know, you would coordinate with other members regarding, let's say, open space. So open space would be George, Carrie, Joanne, and Candace, because they are all subject matter experts. I would, you know, obviously recommend everybody looks at everything, but some pages are excerpts from the Community Preservation Act. But I thought that that would be helpful to get you guys started.
Great, thank you. Yes, it's
You're
very
welcome.
helpful to have a written copy, and I'm sure everybody would also like to get a Word document if you want to do some editing electronically. If we
Yep.
can do it on an
We can
edit
do,
mode.
you guys could.
Unless you want
know,
us to
you
write it
could
up and you type it.
provide content, you could email it to me and I could make one document. I mean, instead of having multiple circulate, whatever is easiest for you guys, I'd be happy to facilitate that.
We could just send you like our thoughts and then you can just clean them up. That'd be great.
You know, if you wanna do recreation by yourself, or if you wanna hook up with, you know, Joanne and Carrie and George, since they're in that category with you regarding
Well,
recreation.
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
some stuff I can just do, like the how many parks, that kind of stuff. I can just
Yep.
fill that in, send that to you.
Yep.
And then the other stuff that kind of goes with all of us together, then we can
Yep.
cross that road when I get to that part.
Yeah, and of course, everybody's more than welcome to bring this back to your other committees and talk with them
Yeah,
about it.
see.
You know, this is a town
Oh.
document. And
Well, that's good. Jessica would be helpful. My Jessica. On my board.
oh, we get to Jessica.
Yeah.
Very good. And so this is something that we're gonna be moving forward, and hopefully we can get a draft together and then a final version so that we can have it be current, and then we'll do an annual review if things change and et cetera, so we can keep up to it. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I have more handouts, but I'll hand them out in the appropriate topic.
And so if I could just also mention that she's, in addition to the one pager that shows all the members, she's also included the bylaws, town bylaws, which is the incorporation of what was passed at town meeting. And another thing that I would like to discuss at some point is that maybe at the next annual town meeting, we might want to review this. One of the things that when we originally wrote this, we put the appointed positions as 2 years, as long as you're still on that board, because that allows everybody to cycle in and out, but nobody's cycled in or out in 15 years. So, you know, having to have the boards reappoint every 2 years, you know, we could discuss, maybe we want to make it 3 years, or until you leave the board, another appointment is made, or until you step off. That's open to discussion. So it's obviously not the time to change bylaws now, because that would be an annual town meeting thing, but we've got a year to go. And then the other thoughts you have is you take a look at this. So that's another nice reason to have this printed out. And a lot of this is boilerplate based upon the state law, but it's based upon the article that we passed way back when, which was approved by the town council and really mirrored what the state requires.
So does my board, excuse me, does my board have to vote for me again this year? Or am I if I come back next year? Or because I'm a 1-year term on my board? But yeah, I just got voted on this one this summer.
So you are recreation 1 year, expired date 2023. So at your next recreation meeting,
Right.
however you process whatever agenda topic, you just put CPC appointment, and you take a motion to vote who would like the CPC seat.
Okay.
And as long as that appointment would be for 2 years.
Right. But I have to do it after the fiscal year 2024, like I have to do it in the 2024 fiscal year for the vote. And do I have to do it in July? After my board is reappointed, because we
Yeah,
all get reappointed.
I
Well, that
Probably.
was my point, was to do it at least after, you know, the town election.
We
But
can
to
ask,
your point, they
should we
expire
ask
June
Adam?
30th, so do it July, whatever.
But I think Candace is saying that she's not officially reappointed.
For the next
Till-
year until after.
So you
July.
could do it before. It's fine.
Okay,
We're not getting caught up on.
okay,
On the planning board, usually I ask to be reappointed in May, every year annually.
Correct. Lori and I will put that on the agenda for planning
Okay.
board for, I think, May. CPCC, yep.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring it to them. If they don't have a problem, we can vote it this, whatever. If they have a problem, then we wait until July, I suppose. There you
Just a
go.
friendly reminder, just to make sure you all are here.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Very good.
Anything else you want? on
No,
your-
I mean,
going
no, if
forward?
you want to talk about town meeting, then I have finance stuff to hand out. I can do that after.
Okay, so as everybody knows or should know, the town meeting is May 10th, which is a Wednesday. And we have the 5 articles on there for projects. There was some discussion regarding getting together more information for the Grange Hall project. So I did converse with Brian the other day, and he said he was meeting with Christoph yesterday to pull together the information so that we could have more details on what the anticipated project would be. And I recommended that they may want to even have, handouts or whatever. And the same holds for any of the projects. Basically the townspeople typically don't need us to go through every little sniggling detail, but the more information that we have ready to answer the questions, the better served we will be. We could do a big, PowerPoint presentation, all this and all that, but then that would just drag the meeting out even further. So we did hear from the town account manager, whatever that he's called, administrator, Adam, that they were going to vote the articles individually so that every project would be voted rather than in the past. Most recently, they have lumped them all into one thing. And so that could get messy if one is less favorable than the others or whatever. So hopefully everybody can attend. Any questions or comments on the town meeting? All right, Chet.
CPC Finances, the top sheet is the projects and what is left in each individual account. And the bottom sheet is the budget versus actual provided by the town accountant, although it is February, as we have not yet received. May I take this?
So, one thing, looking at this, so you can see that, for example, on the second page that has the details of the projects, STM 11-2019 Grange Hall, I've got the zero balance. So we can now, as a committee, vote to, close that account out, and then the town accountant can remove that account from the list. There's no sense carrying a zero balance.
Yeah.
And as other projects get close or are completed, even if there is a positive balance, we can vote to close it. But looking at it right now, that's the only one we have. We do have current projects update, so this kind of rolls right into that. The Dwelly Farm, they will likely have spent theirs out this year. They have obviously another request this year. The affordable housing project is still kind of in limbo. Really needs, it's $17,500 available, and that was written to help address, when an affordable housing unit goes up for sale, for example, at Day Mill, what do we do? So it's really to do a study. That takes a lot of work within the town and there's a lot of things going on to move that forward. So that is still there. Bonneville School, there's two items because we had to split it because it's such a large ticket item that continues to progress through the channels of getting all the historic tax credits and funding and this, that, and the other thing. So that's still moving forward. The emergency management building study of $9,000 was one I was going to bring up under the current projects because, and I think everybody saw that. Okay, you have that.
Current project, yeah.
So they have received a request or a project definition through the procurement process to with an architectural firm to do the study at the Bonneville Fire Station for the projected future use and future CPA project for the sum of $9,000. And do you want to hand that out?
Do you want to
now?
go with current projects? Are we good?
Well,
Or we kind of?
I'm kind of merging them, but
What, do we want to close out that account? The
Okay,
one that
yeah.
is closed out? Or that zeroed out?
Want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we close out account number. Do I have to read the whole thing?
you can just say Grange Hall.
Grange Hall account that currently carries a zero balance.
Okay, motion made by Mike, seconded by Dennis to close out the account ending in 0021 for special town meeting 11 of 2019 at Grange Hall. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a vote. All those in favor, George,
Yes,
Joanne,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
John, yes, Mike,
Yes,
John, and Candace.
Yes.
Okay, so will you please
I
inform
will.
the accountant that can be closed?
All the way across the story.
So do you guys want to take a little more time to digest all this, before we jump into that management thing? You know, we're gonna, our goal is to knock these off, to get them progressed and completed. And then, you know, of course, we'll be addressing any projects get funded this year. So, you know, we're gonna always be busy.
Scout Hall has no money available for it, or was there money in that?
Yes, Scout Hall has this balance of $30,000. So,
It went out to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see that.
yeah.
It's gonna be on our.
So for an update on that was another one of the updates we were gonna make of the current projects is that at those of us, is that a separate item? Yeah, we'll talk about
Yeah.
Scout Hall when we get down to, well, I guess we're rolling right into current projects. So any questions on the CPC finances out there? Then that, because we'll be able to go back to them as we then go forward in the agenda. As you can see from the finances that they've been getting a lot of work done at the Grange Hall. We've been over there and had a look at it. It looks great, and they're submitting invoices regularly.
Yeah, they have pictures online.
Oh, good.
Yeah, apparently they're getting pews upstairs, which I didn't know that. That was kind of shocking.
Well, there were.
They were
people there.
donated. Yeah, they've been
Yeah.
residual.
I thought
historic.
that was the way when we did the tour, I was picturing tables and people like, yeah, I was kind of like,
I don't know how
Doesn't
they
seem
set it at the
comfortable.
first floor, but the first floor used to be set up for tables and chairs.
oh yeah, I thought like,
The
Yeah.
pews were on the second floor.
Yeah, their layout will be totally flexible.
Yeah.
So. you
I
know.
thought it was gonna be like, so you could like have like, show and you could sit and enjoy, you know what I mean, or a meeting.
Mhm.
The pew
Yeah,
just.
I would,
didn't
pictures
expect
are
it.
one thing, they got a long way to go before they're doing anything like that, so. Obviously, the seating will depend upon the venue that's going on, whether they're doing something on the stage or having a meeting or whatever, so. It'll be a great opportunity for, the town to enjoy that building once it's finally, open and available.
Mhm.
And so obviously they've got a project on the docket to be discussed at town meeting to do the ADA compliant bathroom. They've also envisioned what they could do for the ADA compliance to build incorporate an elevator for second story access. They had spoken about doing it externally, but now they've come up with a plan that they could likely do it internally, which is good. So So CPC finances, this is nice to get the summary and feel free to ask any questions if they pop up or certainly reach out to.
And when we get the budget versus actual for March, I can forward it to you all.
Yeah, and it's a lot to digest. So when we get them, we could perhaps, send them out and people can review it and then we can be reminded and look at it again at the meeting. So I'm going to move on unless there's something else on finances specifically. Okay, so going into the current projects, as I had started to mention that the Baldwinville Fire Station, $9,000 was approved to do architectural and design studies to figure out what we can do with that building going forward, making sure we're not just jumping in before we know what we're doing. And so Adam, as our, chief procurement officer has, along with the select board, received this proposal from Icon Architecture for a fee of $9,000, which includes $8,000 to the architectural firm and $1,000 for the cost estimating, be able to provide services, including a site visit, a site review, a review of circulation options, provide plans, elevations, and narratives for cost estimator, and a draft report page turned with the town of Templeton with a final report with cost options. And so the goal for this is what can be done with that building, what would be the approximate cost to rehabilitate that historic structure, which it is in the Baldwinville Historic
It's the very
District,
first one in the district.
which I've emphasized to
On that
Adam and we have discussed before, which would include returning it to the 3-door format. There is only 2 doors on the front fire station and That's kind of what's been discussed all along, because ever since that truck drove into it.
Yeah.
And so what this will allow us to do is to come up with some options that we can then decide what would be a viable project, working with an emergency management from the town, who would also be able to, if the selectmen still intend to let them use it, which I believe is what's
Yeah,
been
we've heard nothing to the
designated.
contrary, so.
But also to retain the historic flavor and structure of the external of the building. We also wanted to make sure it wasn't about to fall in the river and all those other things that you want to do before you spend more money. So that's the reason for this. So if we wanted to, so they went through the procurement process and got this bid. And we have been advised that they have met all the specs. And so if we want to go forward, we should just vote to say yes, and we can let them know.
The only thing I don't see on here is that, are they going to evaluate the existing mechanical systems? Like, the heat's not bad because we have a new furnace in there, but the electrical is severely outdated. But I don't see anything on here about them doing that work and making recommendations. Unless I'm
We could,
missing something.
it's not clear, it's not explicitly stated. I mean, it's
Yeah.
implicit in that the building is not available for use without up to code
Mhm.
electrical.
Well,
But we could, stretch that.
You also have,
Don't believe those stairs are safe.
the stairs are fine, but what you don't have is you don't have handicapped access, just like the Grange building. And being a town building, 2 floors, probably have to look at public access.
Right, public access would be limited to the ground floor until which time, but that
Yeah.
doesn't preclude it from being a
No,
usable building.
no.
Yeah, so,
That's the way we've dealt with it. If we need to, we just move our functions down to the first floor.
okay, yeah, so like, we can express back to the contractor and through Adam that we want to make sure, that they will address potential safety issues, but specifically ensuring that the electrical code is met.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it has for plumbing.
Plumbing's old, probably turn of the century anyway. Early 1900s, all cast iron steel.
That was last century.
Well, the beauty of that is it's good scrap metal.
Yeah.
Okay, so duly noted.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously, an architect knows that the mission is to, what is a project gonna be to make this a usable building, which implies, electrical, does it have a bathroom?
There's one on the second floor.
And we don't even know, is it connected to the sewer? It must be.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to bring those issues up. There, make sure that it's included in their assessment.
yeah, and so we could say contingent upon confirming that this is gonna be addressed.
Yep. So I make a motion that we accept this letter as written with the caveat that we need to check on mechanical services in the building.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay, motion made by Mike, seconded by John to move forward with this proposal from Icon Architecture. Any discussion? Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote, starting with George. All in favor?
Yes,
Yes, Joanne?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes,
John, yes. Mike?
Yes,
John?
yes.
Yes.
Candace? Yes, okay, approved, thank you. Can you, I know Adam had indicated that we could reach out direct to the contractor, but I think we should just go through him.
I think we will.
Especially with can you draft a letter including Mike's
Yep.
comments about that?
Yep, specifically that electrical, sewer and handicap access are included in the assessment.
and plumbing,
Yeah, well, we don't,
all the mechanical.
mechanical
services.
services. And the general safety, so electrical, plumbing. We're not gonna ask them for, to do an upstairs ADA compliance study because it ain't
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Because for $9,000.
Yeah.
Okay. That mechanical services and safety are included in this assessment.
Yeah.
Understood.
Such as electrical and plumbing. Okay, very good. Let's see, I've already mentioned the Grange Hall for the current projects. everything else is kind of on hold, except for Scout Hall. So great progress has been made at Scout Hall. We had a tour of Scout Hall to see where it currently stands. And if you noticed in the sheet, there is a remaining balance after they did the de-leading, which is basically certifying that it's lead safe or some verbiage. It's not lead free, but it's not, it's a usable building in terms of its lead safety. There's $30,923.84. And so the Department of Public Works with Bob have evaluated what the next steps would be to continue to make it a usable building. And so the town has put together a request for proposals to address some remaining items. Those are bid packets are, I don't know if they're waiting for us to say to issue them or if it's been.
No, there's a bid packet. That's.
Okay. And basically to get a figure on what it would take to do what they believe can be done within that time frame. There has always been an undercurrent of what is the building to be used for? And, what would the next steps be? So this, as many of you remember, this was originally voted back in 2016,
November 20th of 2019.
because that's the second one.
So this,
Mhm.
I printed out for all of you as requests for the last meeting. This, you can see what's highlighted, the verbiage that was used at the meeting.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Sorry.
Yeah, no, this is just where's the original one? Yeah. This one that references the continued rehabilitation was for the second $50,000, the original $50,000.
Well, according to accounting, it's town meeting 11/2019 Scout Hall. So that's the balance that's in there.
Right, but the
So
previous $50,000 had language in the article, and I know I sent that to you.
Well, that account closed?
Yes, accounts closed, but the town meeting warrants from 2016 has the language that we want to discuss, because at the time when that was written, it does make reference to youth activities, etc. And so the second article only says for continued rehabilitation. And so where we're talking, and I, frankly, in hindsight, when we drafted the article originally, we should have said, activities to include yada, yada, and all approved and appropriate uses. Because if there's concern that that original language ties us to, a specific thing, we would likely have to go back and say, and other uses, And so can you go back to your emails to that one? Because I know I had the language in it. Because I wanted to, so essentially, rehabilitation of historic structure, you can have any allowable municipal use. I mean, town owns the building. We know the town had originally, received the building related to the Scouts, and so there's reference to, youth activities. Steve, okay, could you read it, or
It's only at the west.
could I read it if you would? Yes. Okay. Yeah, so this was a long time ago, so that's why, so it's 2016, and further, let's see. And further to transfer $24,000 from the Templeton Community Preservation Historic Preservation account and $26,000 from the Templeton Community Preservation General Account for the Board of Selectmen to expend for the historic preservation of the town-owned building at 135 Patriots Road, East Templeton, known as Scout Hall, by rehabilitating the ceiling and other interior components, electrical, plumbing, and heating components for use as a municipal youth and community center. Said project to follow U.S. Secretary of Interior standards for historic rehabilitation as required by the Community Preservation Act. So what I'm getting at is that we put that specific language in the original article, and then the subsequent article was an additional $50,000 to continue the rehabilitation. And so I know there's been, it's always been in my mind that it was available for municipal use for whatever is deemed, in this case, the selectmen are responsible for these town buildings.
I don't see anything tying you down there. That's a pretty broadly worded statement. I mean, you can use it for virtually anything you want to use it for, the way that's written. So I don't think anything we would add to it would just tie it down and make it harder. So I would suggest we just leave the worded as it is. And it will be up to the selectmen to control what uses the building is.
Wasn't one of the primary occupants still for the building at that time was Templeton Communications? So,
That's certainly what we had been discussing from the get-go,
right,
was an opportunity to have that as a resource for.
I'd be
TCTV.
guided about stealing the selectmen's thunder. I think they should decide who can use the building and for what purposes.
Yeah, well,
that's how we,
They've got the ultimate.
that's how we got
decision.
off track.
Yeah,
You can't change that.
yeah, we can make a recommendation to say what we feel like it should be used, since they're using the funds from the CPC, what we recommend. But it'll ultimately be their vote. But some of the stuff that bounces around is a nonprofit organization. If you go with the Scouts are not a town, it's not under Parks and Rec, it's under an organization, it's a nonprofit.
It
They have a,
doesn't say that there.
right, but what I'm saying is,
It's the exact wording.
you can't,
Municipal Youth and Community Center.
There you go, municipal use and community center. How much more broad
I agree with Mike. Leave it ambiguous enough so that the selectmen have got some
wiggle room?
legal.
well,
wiggle room there.
I don't understand where we put our television station. I mean, we have a unique situation. We have a wonderful TCTV television station, and it should have a home.
But
It shouldn't be
this
sitting
doesn't
in a
restrict that,
garage,
Candace.
But
If
part
the
of the
selectmen want to
original-
put it in there, they can.
right?
Where does it say they can't put it in there?
Okay, well, that's
Right.
what we wanted to get out here. Steve, you wanted to bring something up?
Yes, I just wanted to give you a little bit more history with it. And I remember, Dennis, the first meeting we had when I presented, you actually get off the package here. The presentation, PCTV is all over it. Not just because I wrote it, but because, the committee at that time consisted of myself and a representative of the Lions Club and the Scouts all agreed that, we wanted to use it together. So anyways, that you may recognize,
Mhm.
and, there's numerous references to a casual TV studio for TCTV, a youth center, and everything. So if you wish to peruse this, I'll just ask it back, and maybe Jessica can make copies or.
I think, it's
And furthermore, it was voted at the Scout Hall Reuse Committee that TCTV would be a primary occupant of it, and we should have a staff that can man it. Whereas the other organizations can't do that. Now, when the previous town administrator was in here, whatever reason, he didn't believe me and made me go back and get a second vote for the Scout Hall Committee, which I did and provided him the minutes. So we had 2 votes of that committee to be in Scout Hall. And I told the selectmen at my budget presentation recently that, hey, we've put stuff in our budget for Scout Hall for years now. It's gone unused because it's not ready. Right? So we're planning on being in there. And I don't see, we've jumped through every hoop and we've done everything right and got the democratic votes of a committee, and yet everything still is up in the air.
I think it got sidetracked though when personnel on the select board changed. They had feelings for different use for the building. I may be wrong on that.
And in the past couple of years, when they dissolved the Scout Hall Committee, because of conflicts within it over this, apparently, they put it in the hands of community services, which TCTV is a part of. And then gave the project to Adam. And as you know, from what I distributed to you last month with the electrical work, I worked with the accountant on that to update the electrical plans that he had to accommodate TCTV. So my question to your board and the select board is, what's the issue? We've been approved how many times?
Yeah.
Jumped through how many hoops? And yet I still get a lecture about it's not decided yet. So that's why I'm asking for your help as well.
Well, where I was going at with my discussion about, this original use and future spending, maybe, and this is indicated by the Board of Selectmen, so maybe we could reiterate future monies under community development. I mean, I share your frustration is because, and I think
The only question I have is it the role of the CPC to determine what the use of a building is gonna be?
No.
No.
We don't normally get involved with that.
that,
Except
So-
unless you consider the application for funding might indicate,
What it was for, yeah.
right,
Your committee told me point blank, they wouldn't support the project unless TCTV was in there. And this is a conversation I have with virtually everyone in the community. The conversation goes like this: it should be demolished. Well, TCTV needs a home and we can use it. We can meet our clients there. We have to do video production and sponsorship. In order to survive, we
Yeah.
have to do that. We need a place. We want to share it with the Cub Scouts and the Lions Club and have meetings there for other people and use it as a community and youth group.
Yeah, I totally support
What's
that.
the issue?
I support the TCTV goes in it. I
do,
support,
but I don't know
I
if that's
support
all
that,
of us.
that whole plan of them sharing it for them to have meetings for the Cub Scouts and them. I think it's a wonderful plan that somebody came up with years ago, and I think, and when somebody makes an agreement, even if boards change, I mean, those are initial votes are not, like, we didn't take I mean, this vote, nobody null and voted anything, or that organization that, when that board and they voted and voted, no one came back and unvoted it. So you have to honor those votes. I mean, that's just, I would like to see us send something to the select board and say a decision needs to be made finally. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, if you're gonna build and you're gonna work on a plan to a building and you're gonna do construction in it, you gotta know what the construction is for. You need to know, make sure that it's enough outlets in there for TCTV or for the scouts or whoever's in there. You can't, I mean, you
Okay.
can't.
yeah, and you make some great points.
The conversation usually starts with, I want it demolished, right? Somebody says, and I say, well, TCTV needs a home. Oh, that's a great idea. The conversation lasts about 10 seconds.
Yeah, and so I think Dennis's point is well taken, is that the original application, which you have a copy of here, references all of this discussion related to the use by TCTV. And so the original funding, that was the intent that be incorporated with it. So I think it's within this board's jurisdiction to point that out to the select, like, that we are advocating for this as it was originally funded. And that therefore a hope for TCTV only makes great sense to me personally as an individual. And I guess I'm not hearing anybody on this board dissent that either. Not to mention that, it is a resource that if the town needed to have, make videos or do, interviews or something like that, now you have a separate place rather than, the public meeting space.
I've said this for years, and Adam and I have had this conversation. I'm also on Economic Development Corporation, and I've said, someday we're gonna have somebody come into town, want to run a business. We're gonna take them to Scout Hall. We're gonna have a coffee. They're gonna see a TV station there. They're gonna say, oh, and you're technical and you can do this, and maybe a nice little visitor center in the front to show off our community, show our community pride. And they're gonna say, we want to come here.
Yeah.
My job isn't just TV, it's economic development for this community.
Okay, so to move, I hope
Uh,
So I would be willing to support us writing a letter to the select board reflecting specifically that we
Right.
are advocating for inclusion by TCTV based upon that original application from 7 years ago. What do you guys think?
I think if you took the vote on it, the board at the time took the vote on it based on that packet and it said what the use was, then that's the intention. You can't change something. I mean, that's where the money is supposed to go and that's what the vote on the floor
What we would be
was.
doing is just giving our, this is the history behind this. This is what we anticipated would be the use. Ultimately, the authority does lie with the select board. We're not trying to usurp their authority in any regard. But it just makes, it does comply with the intended use. I mean, as long as the rehabilitation of a historic property, is done in a fashion that meets the rehabilitation standard, that's the law that we have to, be responsible for. The use of the building does lie with the select board. But what do you guys think about drafting a letter from this board?
Yeah,
I think
make a motion that-
any effort we can make to push it along would be helpful.
Finally give it its title,
Not
what
sure
it's
it's gonna
supposed to
make
be
a whole lot of
used.
difference.
I think there's.
At least it would be helpful.
I'll make a motion that the chairperson write a letter to the selectmen alerting them to the fact that the original funding was for this purpose. And that should be considered as primary.
Second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded to draft a letter to the select board, indicating, that we like to see the continued, the inclusion of TCTV in Scout Hall, essentially.
I second that.
Seconded by George.
Based on previous arrangements.
Yeah, and we'll pull together that, reference specific to the application from 2016. I mean, the reapplication was essentially like, we still need more money and we'll do another project. But the genesis of this project was driven by
The first one.
TCTV and others saying we've better do something to this building or let it fall apart, because it is a beautiful old building.
There's no parking for lots of other things. I mean, when they're working on videos, they're not gonna have tons of cars in the driveway. I mean, it's a perfect thing for something that's, not huge.
Okay, so we've got a motion made and seconded for the letter. Any other discussion on this specifics? Okay, we're gonna take a vote on the motion. We're gonna start with George. All those in favor signify by saying aye. George,
Aye.
Joanne,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
John, yes, Mike,
Yeah,
John, Candace. Okay, so this eight, 7 of us unanimously have supported drafting of a letter. Does anybody want to review it before we send it? Okay, so I'll draft that up.
You can draft it and I can send it to all the members.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's on you.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And then we'll give everybody like a chance to take a look at it, because I like to have,
Second set of
other
eyes.
eyes, yeah. All
Thank
right.
you very much. I appreciate all of this.
Well, thank you, Steve. I think you're underappreciated for all the work you and your team does for the town. Okay, any other discussion on current projects?
Just that, just to tell the public that, a bunch of us toured Scout Hall with the DPW director on March 21st.
Great, yep, and that's good. And that's one thing that having Jessica on board is also helpful for us to be fully engaged with the projects as we're gonna move them all to completion.
What is,
March 21st, we, a few
oh,
of
you had it,
us,
okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Henshaw,
That's-
Candace, Brooks, myself, met up with, the DPW director, Bob Sozik, and he gave us a tour of Scout Hall. And it's
Okay, so under potential projects, this kind of gets back into some of the old business, but we are talking about revisiting the project at the First Church of Templeton. After the training session, yes,
May I add? Because of the last meeting, I reached out to the First Church of Templeton and the chairman said he would happily look into locating the reconstruction packet. And the roof is already done,
yes, I know. Yeah.
so it won't be included.
Yeah.
So he's looking into it and I haven't been provided anything yet.
okay, and so I pulled up the original letter that we had back from the attorneys when we first reviewed this. And I know I sent it to you and to Jessica, basically where they did discuss that Helms test, which is, based upon this Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts decision a few years ago regarding the church in Acton and its CPA project, they kind of set some benchmarks of what you would do to evaluate whether a project is crossing the church and state divide. And so anything, and that's, at that point, he was very much clearly stated that the roof wouldn't fly because you have to have a roof on a building to have a service. But the exterior may be something that could be discussed, but he was requesting more information. That was a year ago. So we reached out back to First Church, and we want to pull together some more details of specifically what would be done and how it would be improving the exterior of the building to the backdrop of the common, as the Historical Commission has expressed, to address this Helms test issue. And that'll also give them a chance to go out and get additional pricing information, because another year has gone by and prices have not gone down. So that conceivably, we could work with them, assuming it, it's the comfortableness of the lawyers and et cetera, for a fall town meeting article. Potentially, and that's what I indicated to one of the members of the church that also reached out to me, and so I told her, so that's my update on that.
I had similar conversations. They were concerned about trying to get it in for the annual, and I told them, no, don't even do that. And I said, don't rush this. Best case, we could get it in for the fall. I said, so you have time, do your package up the way you think you want to do it up. Having remembered the first presentation, I know they were talking about changing the design of the pediment, and I don't know if they're going to backdate it. I can't remember what they were going to do. So in talking to the chairman of their committee, I suggested, let's keep the price under control. Let's just repair what needs to be repaired, do the aesthetic fixes that need to be fixed, and don't try to redesign the whole pediment. He understood that, and he thought that was a good suggestion. So hopefully we will be seeing something within the next couple of months. So that's got more than I know about it.
Great. Did anybody else have anything to share or questions on that regard? So that's something that, obviously it's an iconic structure that none of us want to see fall down.
Right.
But this whole religion thing and lawsuits is something we have to be aware of. Were there any other potential projects on the horizon or other issues you guys want to discuss regarding potential?
I know the Historical Commission was contacted by the people who were doing the Ballinville High School project. Has the CPC received any?
No,
Right, they requested a letter of support, which we gave them, and I think it's just that they just keep, that's a glacial pace, but.
No, that's what they were seeking from the Historical Commission, but it was fairly recent, so I didn't know if we had asked.
Well, we did the thing for the measurements for Houghton Park, but nothing else has been done on that. Hopefully, there was a grant that I was interested in, maybe we could try to apply for, but we don't have a grant writer.
Well, if you find a source, a grant funding source, maybe you could at least share that with everybody and we can see what it might take to pull together.
Yeah, the grant's due on the 13th of July.
Okay,
Back to the high school project. When we were discussing that back a couple years ago, I had requested that some type of a marker or a bench or something be placed there, noting that the building had originally served as a high school for the town. And they did try to include that, at least originally. I haven't heard or seen anything about it since then. The contractor agreed to doing that, so that may be a request for funding for that we may have to consider at some point.
well, certainly as part of as a grant awarded, states, they must put signage up, that's one of the
Yeah.
requirements of a CPA project, so we'll have some leverage on that.
Oh, that's true too, yeah, I didn't even think of that
And
part.
so,
of it, too.
any other informational, that's a good idea. We'll certainly they've got to get their ducks lined up. We're providing $1 million. They're looking for another 19 or who knows how much now. So,
Adam was part of that discussion, so maybe I'll just mention it to him again. to make sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's way down at the bottom of the to-do list.
but keep it on the radar. We know what happens when you kind of assume they're going to do something because they said it once.
Yeah.
Frankly, this is kind of a blue sky thing, but one thing that I've talked about before is, I've heard from Alan Mayo in the past that would be allowed is, it is conceivable that the World War I statue
Mhm.
could be moved to accommodate a change in the road.
Mhm.
And so that would be a CPA eligible project where we could move it over to say where the World War II monument is.
Mhm.
They could, if they were gonna close the extension of South Road there, that little
Yeah.
stretch by the gazebo,
Yeah.
that could be creating open space. That would also be another allowed use. So obviously the highway and all that other stuff would be highway money, but because there's been talk about if that's the main road, you gotta cut that corner down so the trucks can make the corner. You see it every day. So, that's something that probably the select board would have to drive, but I don't know if anybody else had any.
I haven't heard anything about a project for that intersection in a while. Wow.
I guess we're still waiting for the rotary.
It's been years since.
We had proposed on the Common Improvement Committee back 10 years ago, maybe. That road be expanded, the exit for that road be expanded, including the movement of that
Right.
monument.
Making a left-hand turn lane with a
Right.
radius big enough for trucks to make that corner. I don't think, based on the traffic that I'm seeing there on a regular basis, I don't think a set of lights is not in the future in that area.
Something's gonna have to happen.
It's
Yeah,
really,
it's
really
with
bad.
Hubbardston Road. I would love to see them cut Hubbardston Road off and go through somebody's backyard to square that off. but,
I have. There's a piece of land that runs all the way, comes by Harry Aldrich's down through and comes out by the package store. One straight shot,
Does it go all the way through?
huh?
It goes all the way through?
You'd have to take some land or buy some land, but. You could put a cutoff so people don't have to go into
Cause
the
it's
sun.
coming out of that Hubbardston Road. People try to avoid going through the Sentinel and using, going through the new development.
Yeah. Yeah.
But getting out of Hubbardston Road is just a difficult,
You don't have to learn me. I have to back out of that driveway right there.
I know, you just be really,
My kids are great drivers because they all learned how to get out of that driveway.
So these are the kinds of things, and certainly as we go through our community plan, these are kind of the thoughts that we could also incorporate as potential things that the town could address. And that gets to leveraging, CPA monies with other funds. So if there's some part of a project that is CPA eligible, we could provide resources that would then free up other resources to do other parts of the project. So these large scale multi-pronged projects, there are many communities that do combined, community housing, open space, all in one, different pots of money they have. And so,
So I have a question. So when we attended that training meeting, it was great news to me that we could sponsor projects, that we don't have to have third parties from outside bring projects to us. If we wanted to talk about a project, if we agreed that something, just talk about that road construction now. If we decided that that was something that we wanted to look at, what would we do? Would we break off in a small group to look at that and bring it back to the board? Or it doesn't, I'm not, don't focus on that, but anything that we wanted to do, how would that get done?
everything's on the table. I mean, frankly, it's always been like, we're barely keeping our heads up as it is,
Yeah,
but now we've got a little traction, we've got some seniority here. So if somebody wanted to bring it individually, somebody wanted to break into a small group or work with other boards, I think whatever works best, or whoever's interested in doing something, I would certainly support, whatever it takes. And then, we know the process. We are going to be moving forward with our application process so that it's,
Mhm.
a little more user friendly, or, the fillable forms, what you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and that's why having a section of this meeting to discuss potential projects or other things, that's a good time to do that. We can't just come out here and throw blue sky every
Right.
month and
Right.
never get anywhere. But if we find something that, hey, this needs to be the one, well, let's,
Mhm.
bite that elephant down.
Okay. All right.
So think about it. I encourage everybody that has an idea or hears of other people in the community that need some support moving it forward. Okay, so we'll move into new business then.
That is.
That is new. It's a nice segue. Any other new business? Any old business? Okay,
Just a note, Rich Curtis will be coming back May 1st. He's the emergency management director, so he'll be back in town May 1. So if he needs to work with the people who are the engineering people, he'll be available.
great. That's good to know. And we'll certainly make sure Adam knows that as well. Let's see, was there anything else? I didn't have anything else on my notes. So our next meeting is scheduled for May 11th, which is really our meeting after we all go to the town meeting on the 10th.
We may have
So-
to cancel if they send it out.
Yeah, if they roll over, if they don't finish it one day and they roll into the next night, we will postpone our meeting.
That happened once.
And then it rolled over again. I don't know how contentious the school budget is now, but I know it's not pretty.
It was, they did the lower number. So it's, we should be good for the meeting unless somebody goes and changes it again.
Okay, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Any other items to come before this board before we adjourn? Hearing none.
I'll make a motion.
Would you rather just plan it for May 18th?
I mean,
Would you rather, instead of the May 11th meeting, the day after the town meeting, would you rather? Can you check the TCTV schedule, see if anything's there? Would it be better instead of?
I think Mike is the one that usually might have a
about
conflict on the
postponing.
Thursday, so he's
No,
checking.
I'm good.
That would be
It's up to you guys.
fine with
Just a
me. What do you
suggestion.
guys think?
I'm gonna have Steve check. make
I
sure
think you
that-
can be pretty sure they're not gonna get it all done in one night.
It's open.
Plus, even if they
And I
don't,
would
we'll be so
love
burnt
not
out.
to
We
have
want
a
another
meeting.
go.
Yeah,
A suggestion.
we'll be burnt out.
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, I
but-
think
it
but I'm
sounds like,
available, and TCTV is available as well, if you don't want to worry about a potential postponement.
Until they say, oh, let's move it to the 18th. Yeah, so if everybody's good with that, we'll change it, we'll make it the 18th. So this will be just for this month. It'll still be recurring on the second Thursday. And are you able to change the computer
I'll change
thing?
it.
Very good idea, Jessica. Thank you. We're good on that, Steve?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Dennis, we
Make
have
a motion that we adjourn.
a second? All in favor?